It's starting. Oh, it's on. We're live.
We're
All right.
live.
Powerful Living Hangout. Take one. Here's where we are. I am Michael J. Russ. Hello. And I want to welcome you to the Powerful Living Hangout. My guest today is Erica Bailey, my media consultant, who wants to tell us about something that happened to her last weekend. Now, the mission here is to give you some real life examples of how to use zero adversity so that you can get rid of all the stuff that's getting in your way in life. And zero adversity, a practical three-step process for dealing with adversity, is what I teach. And so let's find out what Erica's story is so we can see how zero adversity can help her not have that same experience again. Erica, you're on.
I am. Thank you, sir. So, all right, here's what happened. I've been waiting for this big deal to come through. I've been working on it and putting all these hours into it, and this big deal was going to change my life. It was going to change my family. It was going to take us to the next level. Not only that, it was going to change one of my business associates' lives as well, because I was going to take him with me, right? And we were waiting for this great news, We expected it. Literally, it was like 99%, And then I get a phone call on a weekend, and it was nothing like I expected to hear. And I literally felt like I had gotten punched in the stomach. Like, I felt like I got a gut check. And no matter what I could do that morning, it's like nothing could go right. And although I knew that there's still potential for this to happen, it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to. And so I turned it into a very negative experience and a very negative moment. And what we were talking about is how that kind of changed, and some of the things I learned from you, which turned it around. So my question, I guess, for this hangout, and we talked about, is how do people get past that gut check feeling where it's like you're so excited about something and then you get smacked in the face with disappointment? Because it happens every day.
Well, the first thing is that you were extremely connected to the end result, and that's one of the pieces to the puzzle. You have to, when you're working on something and you have your expectations are running high, you're actually setting yourself up for the possibility of disappointment. And it's just a thing. When you're working on something and you're saying, this is a really big deal, yes, the pieces and parts are coming together, you have to have the expectation in advance that things aren't necessarily going to go smoothly. And if they are going smoothly, that's great, but you have to still harbor the expectation that there's a possibility that something could go awry. And even if the percentages are high, I like to say you make a goal or an intention, and you say, this is what I'm going to achieve, and then get caught up in the process, not the end result. Do the process and let the end result take care of itself, because if you're too focused on the end result and making plans, sort of putting the cart before the wheels, so to speak, then things will often go awry. Now, when they do go awry, the question then is, how do you respond to that going awry?
Yeah.
And that tightening in the gut is stress. It's the release of cortisol, a hormone that's very destructive to your body. And
So it's not mental, it's actually a physical response?
there is a physical response to your mental thinking, exactly. Just like when you're happy, you release endorphins and other kinds of happy hormones. When you step out in the sun, endorphins and serotonin and all these other hormones are released. You are actually, that's why they call the sun, call vitamin D the sunshine, the happy vitamin. When you're producing vitamin D, it affects your mood when you step out. So when you get angry, when you approach a goal from a perspective of with the wrong thought. In other words, if you exercise out of fear, you produce cortisol in your brain. Cortisol is responsible for many heart attacks. It actually constricts blood flow. Dr. Gary Epler MD, is head of cardiopulmonary and critical care for Harvard University. And his book, Fuel for Life, is his current book, kind of talks about how to achieve level 10 energy all the time. And it talks about your actual goals in mind. So when you have this, the relationship, actually, the physiological relationship between the way you're thinking and doing something that's actually good for you, the reasoning behind that can create the wrong kind of hormone release in your body. Cortisol is something that is excreted, released as a result of fear, anger, flight response, any kind of adversity that you experience. So you want to be very, very careful about the way you think about approaching things that are, and the way you respond to this sort of thing. So what I told you last weekend simply was that you should take a step back, take a couple really, really deep breaths, and somehow center yourself, remove yourself from the situation, find a place where you can, that's peaceful to you, and go there, relax for a moment, or for whatever time that it takes for you to do it, and just release, just let go of your attachment to that goal that you had, that end result that you expected before you got the news. You have to just release yourself from that. Now it's a whole new ball game, right?
Yeah.
So even though it hasn't fallen apart yet, right?
Correct.
It hasn't fallen apart.
It hasn't even happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet. But they didn't say, no, we're not going to do this. It's dead, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I just took it that way.
Yeah, see, because you had really stacked the deck
Correct.
on this. And I can tell you, being in sales, it's like this. Every salesperson faces a situation where they think something, the sure thing, it's one thing you learn in sales when you're selling very large ticket items or intangibles. What you think is going to happen that day is generally not what happens, not what ends up happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got this, you walking in a door and you go, I've got this $50,000 sale, and it's a done deal. All I got to do is call the guy back today, and it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I can't tell you how many times I've been in that situation in 35, 36 years. And the percentage of times when that actually happened was probably 75% of the time. 25% of the time, something changed.
Yeah.
And it's generally, for you, it's something that you don't have control of. And this is the thing. This is probably the reason why, in my view, you got so upset, because something was out of your control.
Absolutely.
You did everything along the way that you were supposed to do,
Yeah.
but the yay or nay is not up to you. So you have to disassociate yourself with that. You do everything that you can do. You make sure you do everything right, and then disassociate yourself from the result that you're expecting. Okay, and know that you did everything that you could, and it's out of your control. So you've got to just let it go. One of the things, there are two successful responses to every event. One is you actually don't try to affect any action or to respond to something that you can't control. So in this particular case, you can't control somebody else's yes or no.
Yeah.
So you have to basically say, okay, that's it, forget about it. The other thing is, if he came back and said, we can do this if you do that, right?
Correct.
You know the deal is good if you do something, some action that he's giving you control over. Then you go, boom. The successful response is to do what he says if you still want the deal. The unsuccessful response is to say, nah, let's drop it. And he goes, okay. So all that's the feelings, what I want to get to is the feelings here of hopelessness, resentment, guilt, frustration, anger. You feel those same feelings when you decide not to do something that you have control over, just as you are now in a position to have no control over something when you're actually fighting to control it. You want them to say yes, you want to control that process, but you can't. And there's a lot of things in life that are like that. So taking a step back, taking a breath, and remembering one thing. This is not the first time or the last. This is not the last time this is going to happen. Take yourself with every goal that you have. Set the goal. Set the intention. Things are going to change along the way. I don't know how many people have goals and intentions that shift and change throughout the day. I mean, everybody does have them. You know, these long-term, these big deals are what we used to call them elephants. Elephant deals. You know, like you're an elephant hunter. You're going to take down the big game. This is the big
Oh,
deal.
gotcha.
Right? It's the elephant, the elephant thing, right? And the issue is we get so focused on the elephant, taking down the elephant, the big deal, that we forget that we have to have a well-rounded approach to business. Because it's not really the big deal that pays for things. It's not what takes you to the next level. It's a bunch of smaller deals. That's what does it. It's the daily grind that you do, and hopefully you love it, so it's not a grind. But the daily work that you do, the journey that you have throughout the day, that takes you there. So that's kind of it. So we want to avoid, we recap, that tightening in the solar plexus and the gut. We want to forget that. Now let's look at the way you handled the weekend. You got this.
Yeah.
What happened?
After I talked to you and you know, I realized, okay, I had to let go of that control. The first thing was I realized I didn't have control, and that no matter all the work and effort I put into it, that control was never mine in the first place. And I had the illusion of control, and the feeling in my gut was really the realization that I had lost, that I never had control in the first place. And so what I did is I figured out, okay, what can I actually control right now? I can control my reaction to the stimulus, my reaction to what happened. I can control what I can do about it. The only thing I could do was, at that moment, was clean my house. I knew I could clean my house and get the kitchen done and my house done. As soon as I started doing that and realized, okay, I got my kitchen done, I'm going to move on to my living room. I got my living room done, I'm going to move on to my bathroom. I finally started feeling a sense of accomplishment. Like I was able to do something, and I started forgetting about the trouble, the pain in my stomach went away. Next morning I woke up and it was a different attitude. I started the day with a different attitude. And now, you know, the deal's actually moving along. So I just had to let it go. Just say, okay, like you say in one of your podcasts, life's too short for this. Life's too short for this. So that's what I said. Why am I worrying? Why am I letting this physically make me sick? Took me a little while, but it happened.
Sense of accomplishment. You know, the thing that you talk about there, sense of accomplishment, I think it's important every day that we do something that gives us a sense of accomplishment, so that at the end of the day when we go to bed, we know we've actually done something. You know, what you didn't feel in this, yes, you had no control, but there was no, you did a lot of work up to that particular point, but because the deal didn't happen that day, your expectations got out of whack, so you felt no sense of accomplishment, you felt empty inside. And that is the way to handle these, really, is to say, this is a piece of my puzzle. I'm going to do whatever needs to happen along to accomplish this thing, but I've got all these other things that I can do that give me a sense of accomplishment as well. It's crazy, but how many people I come across that have, you know, it's kind of like looking for a job. You're in there for the hunt. You know, I have a better example. My brother is an actor, so he faces this exact same thing. Oh my gosh, every week, every couple of weeks, he's got a call back. It's a really good part, and he gets his hopes up for that part, but then he you know, most actors, they'll tell you, you know, don't jinx it, don't talk about it, just let it be, and keep working on something else. And if this comes, it comes. That's it. You know, you got to release your attachment to that particular role, because it's the kind of business where you emotionally you're going like this, and like the roller coaster, right? And you don't want that roller coaster. You'd rather be more like this, right? Kind of floating along the top of water instead of going really deep and then going really high and really deep. So
mind a little up and down. It's those really big, you know.
Yeah, you want it. Yeah, you want it exactly. You want it to be like this, little rocky, little 2-footers instead of those big 100-foot waves, and then you come crashing down and into the like a surfer into the coral down there, and you're getting all wasted, right? All beat up. It's true. Do what you can do on a daily basis. Make a list of the things that you can control and take care of those things. Give yourself a sense of accomplishment. Let the chips fall where they may on the big stuff. You do a little bit every day. Hey, listen, I'm writing a book. I'm writing an article. I've got you working on another project for me. I've got videos to produce. I've got all of these things happening. All this is going on in my head. When I get off this Hangout, I've got to step in the car and drive down the street to work on some music for my podcasts and for the videos that going to be producing. And then I've got to come back for a 2 o'clock call, and then after that, somebody's pulling me in another direction. This is the way life is, but I think it's fun. I think as long as what you're doing is fun, and that you enjoy what you're doing, and that you have some sense of control over you and what you're doing, I think that's very, very healthy. And you have to look back on that and say, am I really loving this? Do I really enjoy having this freedom to move and shift and ebb and flow in these directions? Oh yeah. What's the alternative if you're working from home like you are and like I do? At the end of the day, I go get one of those and and sit back and relax and say, wow, that was a serious day today, like yesterday. So
maybe that should be one of our next topics, Michael, is we can discuss, is telling people, how do you get past those, when you're not happy? How do you make those changes? What's the first step to making changes when you recognize you're not happy? Maybe we could talk about that next time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think a lot of people, somebody said the other day that a good friend of mine, J.P. Hansen, who wrote the Bliss List, said 4 out of 5 people aren't happy with the job they have. 4 out of 5. Wow. That is a lot of people, right? So the question is, how do we arrive here in this spot, 4 out of 5? If you talk to him, I'm sure he'll say you're not doing what you're... Is that your phone?
Yeah, I'm getting rid of it. There's some adversity, right?
You're going to find out that 4 out of 5 people aren't happy because they basically weren't connected to what they're passionate about, what brings them fulfillment. We'll talk about it. It's a more detailed conversation, but if you're connected to what to something that involves use of something you're passionate about, your talents, your natural talents, those things, those gifts that you were born with, that you're good at. If what you're doing involves that, if you're getting a chance to do those things that you're really good at, then you have fulfillment. When you're doing something, when you're putting those things aside and just doing something for the money, for the paycheck to pay for the house, the cars, the white picket fence, the kids, and all these other things that you've gotten caught up in, then you don't feel a feeling of fulfillment, and you feel trapped financially, trapped by things, and we want to get away from that because it's take a step back and learn it. So we'll talk about that again in the next one. I hope that I'm glad that you saw and recognize, actually, you're aware enough to have this conversation with me, and then yourself recognize that you had that tightness and that you were trying to control something that you couldn't control, which is usually what leads to several bad days, because you're still trying to control something you can't. And that's the first key to successful responding and through adversity. Definitely.
I am glad that, before, I don't think I would have recognized that if I hadn't have met you. So when you give yourself, tell other people maybe watching this how they can learn more about the information you have to share, Michael.
MichaelJRuss.com. We're going to be doing more of these Hangouts. You got to join the Google Plus circle. If you're on Facebook and you're not part of Google Plus, you got to get a hold of it, because we're going to have these Hangouts. We're going to get questions from people in the future, and we're going to help people take their life to the next level, and that's straight up. That's what we're doing here, is making sure that you can live a life that has more freedom, more fulfillment, and an authentic life, one where you wake up in the morning happy to be alive and doing what you're doing and being engaged with who you're, with the people around you. I mean, that's really what this is about, is being happy all the way around. How can we work on that mission instead of the drudgery mission and only doing that a little bit at a time? So we'll do that. MichaelJRuss.com and Google+, Facebook, Michael J. Russ. Check it out, and we'll stay connected.
Stay connected. Get social. Talk to you later, Mike.
Make your life awesome.